Mark knew something was off when his morning shower turned into a feeble trickle. At first, he chalked it up to a plumbing glitch, perhaps an aging pipe finally giving out or some unannounced city maintenance. But when he shut off the faucet, a faint, distant hissing lingered, like water running where it shouldn't, as if his house were quietly leaking life. That's when the real trouble began. His water bill had doubled the previous month. He'd dismissed it as a fluke, summer heat, a few extra sprinkler sessions he'd been too lazy to skip. But this month, it tripled. Staring at the numbers, his jaw clenched. There was no way he'd used that much water. He barely touched the lawn, took quick showers, and didn't own a pool. His mind raced. Maybe a hidden leak, a busted pipe pouring water into the void beneath his home. Then, late one night, restless and fed up, he grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The air was still, save for the distant croak of frogs and a soft trickle he couldn't ignore. That's when he spotted it, a fresh PVC pipe snaking from his main water line, vanishing into the soil and re-emerging beyond the fence. Lisa's fence. Mark's stomach sank. No, it couldn't be. He crouched, pressing a hand to the pipe. It hummed faintly, water was flowing. Anger surged through him. This wasn't an accident. Someone had tapped into his supply, and the direction of the pipe pointed to one person. Lisa, the neighborhood's self-crowned dictator. The woman who fined people for leaving trash cans out a minute too long, who griped about tacky wind chimes, who'd once reported Mark for a patchy lawn during a drought. Now, she was stealing from him. His fists tightened. He needed proof. The next morning, Mark woke early, resolve hardening. He set up a discreet camera near the suspicious pipe, rigging it to ping his phone with any movement. By midday, clips flooded in. A worker Lisa had hired inspecting the line, water pressure shifting, and then the clincher, Lisa herself, in broad daylight, smugly checking the connection. Mark's blood boiled. This wasn't petty theft, it was outright water heist. He pictured her lounging by her pristine pool, sipping something fancy, basking in stolen comfort while he struggled to rinse soap from his hair. By noon, he'd had enough. He stormed to her door, fists coiled. Lisa answered with her usual blend of smugness and fake sympathy. "Oh, Mark, what a surprise," she cooed. He didn't bother with niceties. "Why's my water bill higher than a desert tax?" Lisa blinked, playing dumb. "Oh, that's terrible. Maybe you've got a leak." Mark pulled out his phone and hit play. Her face stayed blank for a moment, but when she saw herself on screen, her lips thinned. "That's absurd," she huffed. "It could be anyone. Anyone who looks exactly like you?" Mark shot back, voice thick with sarcasm. "You're on my property, Lisa, rigging my water to feed your pool. Explain that." She crossed her arms, tilting her head. "Look, Mark, this neighborhood has standards. I work hard to keep it respectable. Some of us contribute more than others. It's only fair. Are you seriously justifying theft?" he cut in. She laughed, sharp and patronizing. "Oh, please, it's just water. We share resources, don't we? You should want to help the community." Mark's hands trembled with the urge to throttle her potted fern. "You fine people for parking an inch off the line, and now I'm supposed to shrug off you siphoning hundreds of dollars worth of water?" Lisa sighed, as if he were the exhausting one. "You're blowing this out of proportion. If it bothers you that much, I'll look into disconnecting it. But honestly, a pool boosts property values. You should thank me." Mark was floored. "Oh, I'll get it disconnected, Lisa. But I'm not stopping there." She rolled her eyes. "What, call the HOA? I am the HOA, Mark." That was it. Fines wouldn't cut it. Shaming her at a meeting wouldn't either. She'd declared war, and he'd give her one. Back home, he dialed Tom. Tom had lived there before Lisa's reign and loathed her even more than Mark did. He picked up, gruff as ever. "What's up?" "Lisa's stealing my water," Mark said bluntly. A pause, then a dark chuckle. "Is she now? I need a way to stop her, something she won't see coming." Another beat. Then Tom dropped the bombshell. "How do you feel about saltwater?" Mark frowned. "What?" Tom's tone turned sly. "Ever seen what saltwater does to a chlorine pool?" Mark didn't know where this was headed, but Tom's glee promised something epic. In the garage, Mark drummed his fingers on the workbench while Tom lounged in a chair, grinning like a kid handed a free pass to mischief. Saltwater for the whole system sounded insane. Mark nearly laughed it off. But then he pictured Lisa by her pilfered pool, smug as ever, while his bills soared. That sealed it. Tom scratched his beard, jotting notes. It's simple. We rig your water with a saltwater filter, enough to wreck her pool without trashing your setup. You sure? Mark asked. Tom smirked. Oh, it'll work. Her chlorine system won't handle it. pH goes haywire, filters clog. If she doesn't catch it fast, that crystal blue turns to swamp sludge. Mark exhaled, a wicked satisfaction brewing. Let's do it. Over the next few days, they gathered gear. Tom helped install the saltwater system, tweaking the salt to ruin Lisa's pool while keeping Mark's life normal. Surprisingly, it was an upgrade. Showers felt softer, dishes gleamed. But for Lisa's pool, disaster loomed. Mark spied through the fence gaps, waiting. At first, nothing. Then a faint haze dulled her perfect blue. By week's end, it was a cloudy mess. He stifled a laugh as Lisa stood poolside, hands on hips, glaring at the murk like she could command it clear. The fun peaked when a pool tech arrived. Mark watered his lawn nearby, eavesdropping. Something's wrong, the tech said, frowning at his tests. Chlorine's off, and there's way too much salt. Lisa's face soured. Salt? How'd salt get in my pool? The tech shrugged. Bad chemicals, maybe contamination. You'll need to drain it. Reset everything. Mark nearly choked, holding in his glee. Drain it? That'd cost her a fortune. That afternoon, Lisa pounded on his door. He opened it to her, snarling, You did something to my pool. He blinked innocently. Your pool? Why would I touch it? It's full of salt, and I know you're behind it. She jabbed a finger at him. Lisa, I don't even have a pool. How could I mess with yours? Her eye twitched. I'll figure it out, and you'll pay. He sighed. Well, I did switch to a saltwater system recently. Maybe that's what you're picking up. Her jaw dropped, then snapped shut. She couldn't argue without admitting the theft. Her own trap. This isn't over, she hissed. Can't wait, he grinned. Days later, Lisa flailed to save her pool, but the salt had won. The water stayed murky, and Mark heard her yelling at service reps over the phone. Then came her revenge. HOA citations flooded his mail, his unapproved water system, his mailboxes wrong beige, his trash cans too visible. Petty nonsense. She couldn't prove he'd sabotaged her, so she buried him in red tape. But Mark was patient. He cataloged it all, photos, letters, chats with neighbors she'd also tormented. Then, when the time was ripe, he filed a formal HOA complaint, evidence in tow. The timing was perfect. Rumors had long swirled about Lisa misusing HOA funds, fining folks while pocketing cash. Mark's push triggered a reckoning. An emergency meeting was called to probe financial discrepancies. He arrived early, sitting back to watch. The room buzzed with fed-up homeowners. Lisa strode in, chin up, still thinking she'd bluff her way out. Big mistake. The HOA president, Greg, a pushover for years, opened with a stack of files. Lisa, we found serious misuse of funds under your watch. Murmurs spread. She scoffed. Ridiculous. I've kept this place in line. You should thank me. Greg slid papers forward. Thousands in unexplained costs, fines enforced unevenly, none on you, though. Her smirk faltered. If fees got mislogged, it was an accident, she snapped. Greg frowned. Dozens of times? And personal charges, catering, landscaping just for your yard. The crowd stirred. It wasn't error, it was theft. I don't need to take this, Lisa spat. Maybe I'll resign. Greg's voice hardened. Resignation won't cut it. We're reviewing everything. Legal steps may follow. Panic flashed in her eyes. You're joking. We're not, Greg said. The vote booted her out, and an investigation launched. Mark savored every second. 2 weeks later, a moving truck rolled up to Lisa's. Mark watched from his porch as she barked at movers, fleeing the neighborhood's wrath. She glared at him. Enjoying this. Hugely, he grinned. She turned away, humiliated. The final blow? Her pool system was trashed, salt damage too costly to fix. She sold the house, swamp and all. A week later, a block party erupted, unofficially a good riddance bash. Music blared, grills smoked, laughter rang free, unshackled from Lisa's tyranny. Mark flipped burgers as Tom ambled over, beer in hand. Happiest I've seen this place, Tom said. Mark chuckled. Get rid of a leech, and look what happens. Tom toasted. To Lisa's pool. May it stay a salty ruin. Mark clinked his soda. To Lisa's pool. As the sun dipped, Mark felt pure contentment. No fines, no theft, no Lisa. Victory tasted sweet.